We also have a couple web pages like this iPad apps we are using. It doesn't mean for sure that each and every app on here will certainly be on your student's iPad, but it represents our current thinking about some of the better choices. I find it very challenging on the App Store. For example, if you wanted to get an application for doing flashcards, if you just typed in flashcard, literally hundreds of apps come up. So we've just tried to highlight for you the ones we've found or other schools have found. So if I wanted a flashcard app, you would know that today our English department likes this one. So it's just in case you want to preview some of these things. So a lot of the apps we use today are on here, iStudies Pro. As we get closer to the beginning of the school year, frankly, the list will shrink a little bit. And in terms of the process of the one-to-one program, I am happy to answer any questions we can. Some things we can't, just because of the way technology and the marketplace works. Historically, we've had really good results making equipment purchases at the end of a quarter, at the end of a fiscal quarter. Everyone's in this business of making fun technology for us to buy for a reason, and that's their bottom lines. They're reporting to their shareholders. So I don't anticipate actually buying the fundamental iPads until closer to June 30th. In the summer packet, we would anticipate that there'll be sort of the acceptable use agreements, the kind of legal documents we need to proceed with the program, and further information.
Parent education evolvable. I've answered this individually a little bit already, but we will be sending emails with step-by-step with pictures so you can really follow along. You can open your computer and have your kid's iPad and go through it like that. But also we'll be offering classes, more classes like this that will go at a much slower pace to address specific apps and to really make sure that you kind of understand what your kids are doing and how to do it. I can see really as a parent I would want to know how to get into my students' notebooks and iStudies Pro. I would want to know how to be able to kind of flip through the digital pages to see what projects are upcoming, to make sure that I don't have to make a last-minute run to Michael's for those supplies that Sunday night, to really so that you can help your child learn how to plan ahead. And that's one of the huge aspects of middle school is time management. And I've seen electronic devices used where it really does help with time management, but for you to have the ability to look in to help your child help themselves with time management, that'll just make it so much better. Our goal is to have the strongest foundation that we can provide for our students in the first 2 weeks of school so that they all feel very comfortable with their initial few apps. We're starting kind of narrow with the apps that we're going to be using, the basic apps that we'll be using, and then we'll broaden as their comfort level and as we kind of go on in the school year. But we're going to make sure that we have all the steps in place in digitally, so you might get an ebook about the steps, and if you feel more comfortable having it on paper, then we'll provide you with a paper version. Some people want to have that book manual to go through while they're going through the electronic iPad. So that's really what we're working on over the summer.
The way it will work essentially is that we as a school community will do a volume purchase of the core apps like Notarize, for example, Note Shelf, all of those things that we know every student needs to have. When a student gets an iPad, it will be essentially blank. It'll have nothing on it except for a little, it's called a self-service tool, which is almost like a San Domenico app store. They'll click on that and it will tell them which apps they can redeem, and then they'll click on it and it'll send them to the app store. It'll feel like a free purchase at that point. So they'll click on Notarize, it'll redeem a code. All the accounting will happen on the back end. They won't know about that. They'll get the application. Then we are going to ask the families to be a little bit part of the process of being responsible for what's on the devices beyond those. Because I think we all feel pretty strongly that there's some family choice issues involved about like what kind of procedures you want to have for your child.
And that's an integral part of parent education.
Right, that'll be very clearly outlined in August. But I want to say that we will guide you to creating an iTunes account that'll be credit card less. That's going to be our suggestion, is that you create a separate iTunes account for your son or daughter. We're going to suggest tying it probably to a school type of account, email account, and we're going to suggest not attaching a credit card to that account. So in essence, they'll be capable of downloading the things we want them to have and free apps. And Apple has some ways of giving an allowance and other options like that, which we will highlight very clearly. You may decide that maybe you're a little bit more comfortable with more games being downloaded or whatever, and that's a conversation we want to have happen in the home.
Definitely.
Want to use them, you can still buy them and put them on the one you have.
Oh, definitely.
Right. If you have this question about organizing your family iTunes, is Apple ties everything to an Apple ID. So just think about which Apple ID you buy things on. That's the key. So in my own home we have one family Apple ID, so that we only have to buy something like Notarize once, and my wife and I can both share the app. But with your child, you may prefer to create a very specific account that only has access to specific things. But we are going to have the parental controls and age-appropriate controls in place on the devices from the school. The school's going to impose that on the devices.
For the internet.
For the internet,
And for
the internet's always tricky, but especially apps and things like that. And we'll have some education on how to help with the internet aspect of it too. But it allows the student to pull the apps they've been authorized to have.
Right.
So it's
even
almost the same thing as us putting them on.
Because I know with the ones that we have at home, once you register that particular device and you set up your iTunes account, everything that goes onto that device is from whatever iTunes account
Right.
you set up. So I'm just trying to figure out, I'm trying to understand, from there, we can somehow access the San Domenico.
Right, it'll be just like the App Store, but it'll be called, I don't know what I'm going to call it, San Domenico.
So it's like an additional app or something that goes onto the
Right,
device?
right. It's already on the device.
So you have to be careful, you don't want to download all your iTunes
Well, that's where creating a new iTunes account.
separate.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to have
a
everything from home on this
exactly,
new
exactly.
device by accident.
Whenever you sync, yeah. So you
Well, you don't have to.
No, you don't
You
have,
don't have
you don't
to.
have to.
Yeah, you
no.
can-
Oh,
Have the door open when they're working, or the computer, it's like really different. These are really small, so they can have these, probably have these anywhere.
It's still your home, it's still your child, it's still your rules, so if you have rules like an open door or you always use it in one place, there's no reason why, just because the school gives your child an iPad, that you can't have those family procedures in place. It's just instead of the family iMac or laptop, it might be, the insurance market for iPads is fascinating and changes rapidly. We believe that we will be offering a discounted insurance option that parents can choose. Essentially a link on our website with a coupon, if you will. The product I'm looking at is something that's very affordable. It includes theft, dropping, water damage, all of those things. The only thing that no insurance product has that I've seen is loss. Theft is included. Just leaving it on the bus. Nobody wants to insure that. So. Today lives in the internet, lives in the cloud. So essentially, if I lost my iPad today, I would just get another one, re-download my apps, all of my data would come back, and we have
everything, all your notes,
leaving a handout, annotating it, turning it back in as an assignment. Those functions, we're talking about cloud-based products for that, and we've invested in a very good file storage system that's equivalent to Dropbox, if you've heard of that. And it's not Dropbox, but it's a corporate equivalent, if you will, and we're very excited about that. I mean, one of the expectations we'll have of students is that they charge while they sleep.
Yeah.
If you charge an iPad while you sleep, the reality is it will last more than the full day, which is one of the reasons why the iPad's such a compelling choice for education.